Have you ever met someone who just never cries? No matter how sad, angry, or hurt they get, they always seem calm, detached, almost emotionless. But here's the question. Are they really that strong? Or is something deeper going on inside their mind? Today, we're breaking down the real psychology behind people who don't cry. And trust me, it's not as simple as they don't feel emotions. 1. Crying is a natural emotional release. Crying isn't weakness. It's literally how our body regulates emotional overload. Sadness, stress, even happiness. So when someone doesn't cry, it's not just about being tough. It's usually about how their mind has been trained to process or suppress emotion. 2. Emotional suppression often starts early. A lot of people who rarely cry grew up hearing things like, "Stop crying, be strong, crying won't fix anything." So they learned early that showing emotion equals to being weak or dramatic. Their brain adapted. It built emotional walls. And now, as adults, they don't even feel the urge to cry anymore because their emotions get filtered out before reaching the surface. 3. Emotional numbness and detachment. Here's the tricky part. When you suppress emotions for too long, you start feeling numb. Not just to sadness, but to everything. No highs, no lows, just neutral. Psychologists call this emotional blunting. When your brain basically says, feeling hurts, so let's stop feeling altogether. It's a coping mechanism. But over time, it can disconnect you from your true self. 4. The perfectionist or logical mindset. Some people replace crying with control. They think, if I cry, I lose control. So I'll think logically instead. They rationalize emotions instead of expressing them. They'll analyze what's wrong instead of feeling it. And while this makes them appear emotionally stable, inside, it's often a war between logic and repressed emotion. 5. Trauma and the fear of breaking down. For some, not crying is pure survival. When you've experienced trauma, you learn to shut down emotions just to function. Because crying back then wasn't safe. It meant being vulnerable when you couldn't afford to be. So now, even when life softens, their mind still says, don't cry. You might not recover if you do. That's not coldness. That's self-protection. 6. Gender and social conditioning. Let's be honest, society plays a huge role. Men are told, real men don't cry. Women who cry are labeled too emotional. So crying becomes a social risk. You're judged for expressing the most human emotion possible. Over time, people internalize that pressure, and emotional suppression becomes second nature. 7. Hidden emotional outlets. Just because someone doesn't cry doesn't mean they don't feel. They might release emotions in other ways, through art, music, working out, late-night journaling, or just silent overthinking. Everyone cries differently, some with tears, others with silence. 8. The cost of never crying. Here's the dark side. When you never cry, emotions don't just disappear. They build up, quietly. You might start feeling constant tension, anxiety, fatigue, without knowing why. Because the body keeps the score. What the eyes refuse to release, the mind carries like invisible weight. 9. How to reconnect with your emotions. If you're someone who rarely cries, it's not bad. It just means your emotional system has been in protection mode. Start by noticing how you actually feel, without judging it. Sometimes crying isn't about breaking down. It's about breaking open. Let yourself feel again, even if it starts with small moments. Because strength isn't holding it in. It's allowing yourself to heal. So next time you see someone who never cries, don't assume they're cold or heartless. They might just be someone who's had to grow armor over their emotions to survive. But even the strongest armor needs to be removed sometimes. Because real strength isn't in not feeling. It's in being brave enough to feel again. Thanks for watching.